Well, I've been reading a fascinating book. We're going to talk right now about how busy you are. If you're a woman who's trying so hard to do it all and finding you've never had enough time in the day for all the things that really matter, our next guest says you're not alone. Her new book is aimed at giving you the tools that you need to get out of that endless cycle before you get completely burned out. Alli Worthington is the author of Breaking Busy. It's how to find peace and purpose in a world of crazy. I think our world really is crazy right now, isn't it?
It is.
And sometimes it's crazy of our own making.
Very often that is the case, yes.
Yeah, yeah. All right, well, let's talk about how we get out of that crazy cycle that we get ourselves into. You're a busy career woman, you have 5 children and a wonderful husband, and you know how to get out of that cycle, and yet you find yourself in it sometimes.
Absolutely. Busyness is something that's always trying to creep in our schedule. We never wake up one day and say, what do you know, I'm just not busy anymore.
Right.
With Breaking Busy, I wanted to compile strategies and tools to help women identify the signs of being too busy and give them a pathway out.
All right, well, let's talk about what some of those warning signs are that we're just too busy in our lives.
Well, a big one is chronic lateness. So if you're always showing up late to appointments, always running about 15 minutes behind, it's a great indicator that you're trying to pack too much in the day. We all have physical limitations. Now, let me just say, if you have small children at home, for all of those watching with small children, that doesn't count, because I believe if you have children who are younger than preschool level, you can't get anywhere on time.
Well, yeah, it's really hard to do that. Yeah.
And then another indication is out of control emotions. For me, when I find myself really easy to cry, to snap at my family or coworkers, I know that my schedule is a little bit too packed. I believe the out of control emotions reflect the out of control demands that we put on ourselves and our time.
Particularly when it's not situationally appropriate.
Absolutely.
You know, when you're having a weird reaction that has nothing to do with what's actually going on.
If it's just a normal day at the family and I start crying over something, it normally means I'm a little bit stressed and burned out.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more margin in our life.
So at a time like that, you need to take a step back and reevaluate. What's the next step?
Well, some people would say we need to be all scientific and list everything out and monitor our time, and there's ways for that, but the easiest way to go about it is, instead of piling more activity on, which we often do, when we find ourselves stuck or too busy, we often want to make a list of all the ways that we're going to work our way out of it. When the best thing to do sometimes is to make a list of things you're going to stop doing. So just a stop doing list and write it down just like you write down a to-do list. So find those things that you really just don't have the time to do, don't want to do, aren't working for you in this season of life, and give yourself permission to say no to some things.
And yet I think for women, it's so hard to say no, particularly when the things that you're doing are things that really are good.
Absolutely, and many of us fill our schedules up with everything that's good, but if we are past our capacity, our physical limitations, then we're not going to enjoy it, and we're not going to have a sense of confidence and calm about our lives.
Can you give me a way to say no? If somebody says, I need you to, be in charge of this committee at church, how do I say no and still feel good about it?
Well, I find the more honest I am and I just lay all my cards out on the table, the easier it is. I will very often say, thank you so much for the offer. I am so grateful that you thought of me, but that won't work for my family right now. We have time limitations. And it seems scary, it seems uncomfortable when you're planning it, but what I found is when you're honest and you say, this is what we can do, this is what we have margin for, people always respond really well and really understanding.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Some good tools in this book. It's called Breaking Busy. It's available now. You can find more on Alli's website. It's alliworthington.com. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate it.